Today, we're going to continue my series on reviewing the 2024 Green Bay Packers. But this time, we're going to review our running backs and offensive line. These two groups were the driving force of this offense for the majority of the season, with the running game picking up a lot of slack when the passing game was struggling throughout the majority of the year. The offensive line as a whole was very solid, keeping Jordan Love upright on the vast majority of passing snaps and opening up big running lanes for our brand new stud running back, Josh Jacobs. The grading is as follows. A is for players that had a fantastic season, way exceeding expectations, or made the All-Pro team. B is for players that had a really good season, exceeding expectations. C is for a player that had an average season or met expectations. D is for players that had disappointing seasons, and F is for players that actively hurt the team every time they were out there. Playoff performance will have a bit of an impact on grades here, so let's go ahead and get started with the Packers' brand new bell cow running back, Josh Jacobs. When the Packers unexpectedly signed Josh Jacobs to a 4-year, $48 million contract in the offseason, dreams of the best 1-2 punch in the league with Jacobs and Aaron Jones danced in Packers fans' heads for about 45 minutes or so. Then the Packers released Jones and fully committed to Josh Jacobs being their starting back. Now, expectations were a bit tampered for Jacobs heading into the season, as he came off of a disappointing 2023 with the Raiders, as he had less than 1,000 rushing yards and missed several games due to injuries. And he did get off to a bit of a slow start with the Packers as well, only having one 100-yard rushing game and one rushing touchdown during the first 7 games of the season or so. But that Jags game is when the old Josh Jacobs came alive, as he had over 120 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns and willed the Packers to victory when Jordan Love went down with injury. He never looked back after that and became a key part of this offense for the rest of the way. Jacobs was an excellent red zone back for the Packers, having 13 rushing touchdowns for the Packers starting in the game against the Jaguars to the end of the regular season. Also, Jacobs proved to be a really good weapon in the receiving game as well, being a very good safety blanket for Jordan Love and made some really nice plays in that aspect as well. He also broke his receiving touchdown streak, finally getting his first and only career touchdown reception so far against the Houston Texans. Jacobs was also one of the only offensive players to show up for the Packers in the wild card round loss to the Eagles, as he had over 120 total yards of scrimmage and the Packers' only touchdown of the day. Overall, in 2024, Jacobs appeared in 17 games, starting in all 17 of them, having 1,329 rushing yards on 301 attempts, 15 rushing touchdowns, a yards per attempt of 4.4 yards, 36 receptions, 342 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. PFF graded him out really highly as well, giving him an overall grade of 91.5, which is third highest among all running backs, behind only King Derrick Henry and Bijan Robinson of the Falcons, a rushing grade of 90.6, and a receiving grade of 86.2. He was also named to the 2024 Pro Bowl as well, and the only reason why he wasn't named to either of the All-Pro teams was because of the insane seasons that both Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley had. For his 2024 season, I'm giving Jacobs a grade of A+, as he came in and completely changed the energy of this team. When the offense needed someone to pick up the slack when things got stagnated, Jacobs came in and just took over the second half of the season. He was a touchdown machine, fixing one of the biggest issues for the 2023 Packers, which was scoring in the red zone. He was also a huge leader in clubhouse as well, taking charge of this team and becoming one of the fan favorites as well, and he is currently trying to recruit other good players to the Packers as well. What a signing this was from Brian Gutekunst, as Jacobs was a game-changing back that the Packers are going to enjoy for a while to come. Coming into the season, the role of Emmanuel Wilson was very much in the air, as the Packers brought in Josh Jacobs, still had veteran A.J. Dillon on the roster, and drafted Marshawn Lloyd out of USC in the 3rd round in the 2024 NFL Draft. But Wilson was able to get a ton of playing time this season, as Dillon went down for a year-long injury during training camp, and Lloyd was out for the whole season as well, battling injuries. So Wilson was able to solidify the backup running back role, and he filled that role very, very well. Whenever Jacobs needed a breather, the offense kept on humming whenever Wilson was in, which is a testament to his hard work and skill, especially for an undrafted player out of Fort Valley State. Overall, in 2024, Wilson appeared in 17 games, having 502 rushing yards on 103 attempts, 4 rushing touchdowns, a yards per attempt of 4.4, 11 receptions for 48 yards, and a receiving touchdown. He also graded out really well according to PFF, giving Wilson an overall grade of 85.7, which is 9th among all running backs in the league, a rushing grade of 88.0, and a receiving grade of 68.0. For this season, I'm giving Wilson a grade of A as he really solidified himself as one of the better backup running backs in the league. From having doubts of if he was even going to make the roster to have only over 500 yards rushing while spelling out Josh Jacobs, it will be interesting to see if Wilson is brought back next season, as the Packers still have Jacobs, of course, and Marshawn Lloyd should be back as well to challenge Wilson's role as a number 2 back. But I believe that the Packers should keep Wilson as he is a tough runner, young player, and just a good guy to have in your core of running backs. Brooks started out the season as a member of the Packers practice squad, but was eventually elevated to the main roster when Marshawn Lloyd was placed on IR for the remainder of the season. And in those games, Brooks really impressed when he was coming in for both Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson. He became a really solid receiving back for the Packers and was an excellent pass blocker for the Packers as well. In fact, most of his actions came into passing plays, getting screen passes and picking up blitzes for Jordan Love. Overall in 2024, Brooks appeared in 15 games, having 183 rushing yards on 36 attempts, 1 rushing touchdown, a yard per attempt of 5.1, 11 receptions, and 69 receiving yards. PFF gave him an overall grade of 65.6, a run grade of 69.5, a receiving grade of 53.8, and a pass blocking grade of 67.5. For his 2024 season, I'm giving Brooks a grade of B+. After what he was asked to do, he did his job really well. He ran hard, blocked his butt up, and has made the Packers running back room decision looking really tough heading into next season. As the 3 guys who got carries in 2024, him, Wilson, and Jacobs, looked really good, and we still haven't seen third-round rookie Marshawn Lloyd play at all due to his injuries. My guess is that if Brooks is retained by the Packers, it will be as a practice squad player, but I would not be surprised if the tape he put on in 2024 that he is picked up by another team that will give him more carries. Either way, he is a very talented young man. What a season it was for the third-year pro out of Wake Forest, as Zach Tom solidified himself as one of the best right tackles in all of football. Tom was a model of consistency, starting in all 17 games for the Packers, and was an absolute beast in both the pass blocking and especially in the run blocking, keeping Jordan Love clean almost all season long. According to PFF, Tom got significantly better in all aspects of his game, raising his run blocking rate from 81.2 in 2023 to 87.8 in 2024, and his pass blocking game rose from 72.3 to 81.0. Overall, PFF gave him an overall grade of 87.6, good for 4th among all tackles in football, a pass blocking grade of 82.1, and a run blocking grade of 90.0. They also credited him with 7 penalties against, 3 sacks allowed, and 24 pressures allowed. The one big blemish on Tom's season was that his worst game in the season just happened to be in the Packers' playoff loss against the Eagles. And that one, he got absolutely worked by the excellent Eagles pass rush, which, as we have seen, destroyed a lot of offensive lines in the entire playoffs, which was quite a shock compared to his excellent regular season. But for his 2024 season, I'm giving Tom a grade of A-, as he had by far his best season as a pro, developing into one of the best tackles in all football, and definitely one of the most underrated players in the NFL, as he didn't make the Pro Bowl and got barely any noise to make an all-pro team. The only blemish was that terrible playoff game, but it was a very successful season for Tom, and I would not be surprised to see we get a massive contract extension for the Packers stud franchise right tackle. Heading into his last season under contract, Josh Myers needed to put on his best tape in order to convince the Packers that he would be worth a second contract. And unfortunately for both Myers and the Packers, this season was more of the same mediocre play that we have seen from Josh since he got drafted in 2021. Overall in 2024, PFF gave him an overall grade of 55.3, which is 49th out of all centers, a pass blocking grade of 63.4, and a run blocking grade of 52.2. That is just not the numbers you want to see out of a fourth-year starter at center, especially for one who has not improved at all. They also credited him with 4 penalties against, 1 sack allowed, and he gave out 29 pressures. He, like Zach Tom, also had a pretty rough postseason game against the Eagles, as he really struggled to contain the interior pass rush of Philadelphia, and he also suffered a pretty significant leg injury late in that game. For his 2024 season, I'm going to give Myers a grade of D+, as yeah, he was still a consistent starter for the Packers, but yet it was another season of no improvement with Myers, and I expect that he would not be brought back to the Packers, as they would like to try to upgrade their one weak link in their offensive line. It was a very intriguing season for one of the most senior members of the Packers' offensive line. At one aspect, he was one of the best guards in football, especially his pass blocking, where he ranked 3rd amongst all guards according to PFF. But his run blocking was definitely below average and the second worst marks of his career, and had a ton of penalties against him as well, which is not something that you want to have out of your most veteran presence on the line. He also had to lead the playoff game against the Eagles pretty early on in the game due to a leg injury, and that totally messed up the Packers' offensive game plan, letting the Eagles dominate poor rookie Travis Glover in his place. Overall, in 2024, Jenkins appeared and started in all 17 games, recording an overall PFF grade of 66.0, which is 45th out of 135 guards, a pass blocking grade of 83.1, which was third among all guards, and a run blocking grade of 61.2. He also committed 10 penalties, had 1 sack allowed, 2 hits allowed, and 16 pressures allowed. For his 2024 season, I'm going to give Jenkins a grade of C+, as he was still a very good pass protecting guard for this team and a very solid veteran presence among the offensive line. But his second straight season of pretty mediocre run blocking and the high amount of penalties bring his grade down from the B level he is normally is at. But I think that he could easily get back up to the Pro Bowl guard that we all know he can be. It was another solid season of development for the former 7th round pick out of Penn State, as Walker has developed himself into a pretty solid pass protecting left tackle for Jordan Love's blind side. There are still areas you'd like to see him improve in, especially in the run blocking game and with the amount of penalties that he committed as well. But overall, it was another successful season for the young talent out of Penn State. Overall, for his season, Walker appeared in and started in all 17 games for the Packers, recording an overall PFF grade of 68.3, which is 44th among all tackles, a pass blocking grade of 79.6, and a run blocking grade of 54. He also committed 9 penalties, had 3 sacks allowed, 4 hits allowed, and allowed 35 total pressures. For his 2024 season, I'm going to give Walker a grade of C+, as he was again really solid as a pass blocker, but his lack of good run blocking and the high amount of penalties really knocked him down during the season. But I have big expectations for his 3rd season starting, as he has put in a ton of work to get where he is at now, and should be able to take it up another notch for the 2025 season. It was definitely a rough season for the Packers' 1st round draft pick out of Arizona. Morgan was only able to suit up for 6 games in his rookie season, as a lingering shoulder injury from training camp eventually led him to be putting on IR halfway through the season. And for those 6 games that he was in, he was splitting reps with incumbent starter Sean Ryan. Even though there were some moments where he flashed that 1st round potential, overall it was a very mess season when he was in the lineup. Overall in 2024, Morgan appeared in 6 games, starting in 1 of them, recording an overall PFF grade of 59.2, 79th out of all guards, a pass block grade of 61.5, and a run block grade of 56.2. He also committed 1 penalty, allowed no sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and allowed 7 pressures. For his 2024 season, I'm going to give Morgan a grade of D, as between the injuries and rotating drives with Sean Ryan, it was very hard for him to get any consistent playing time. There were times where his 1st round potential showed, but it was a struggle for him the majority of the time he was on the field. But there is still a ton of talent there with Morgan, and if there is any team that I trust to develop an offensive lineman, it is the Green Bay Packers. The last player that we're going to talk about today is Sean Ryan. Getting his first opportunity to be a starter after John Runyon left in free agency, Ryan played very admirably in that role, but was definitely better in pass blocking than in a run blocking grade. Overall in 2024, Ryan appeared in and started all 17 games, recording a PFF grade of 62.0, which was 67th among all guards, a pass block grade of 69.4, and a run block grade of 58.4. He committed 6 penalties, allowed 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and allowed 24 total pressures. For his 2024 season, I'm going to give Ryan a grade of C, as he was pretty average as a starting guard in the league, as he was decent in pass blocking even though he gave up 3 sacks. But his lack of performance in the run blocking grade and the penalties he gave up did set his production back. It will be interesting to see what the Packers do in the offseason with the offensive line, as Ryan is entering his last season under contract, and the Packers could look to use Jordan Morgan as his replacement next season. But another strong offseason work could put Ryan back in that starter's role, as he is a pretty solid 3rd round prospect that we have. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more. And the next Packers grading video we're going to tackle the defensive line and linebackers, 2 units that had very different results in this season. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.